Hello guys, and welcome to a new WARNO video today by me, Vulcan. In this one I have for you a 10 versus 10 on rocks, and I'm going to be playing with the 119th Tank Division. Rocks is probably one of my favourite maps in WARNO. It is absolutely awesome in team games, 4v4, and in this case 10v10. You have this awesome area on the right, which is great for flanking and attacking the enemy spawns. You have the industrial and forested engagements sort of more up the river, and then over on the left hand side it's much more open, perfect for big tank engagements. On the far left, a little bit more forest to work with there. But today we're going to be of course focusing in the open, as we are using the 119th, which is a very strong tank division, probably the strongest on the pack side at the moment. MiG-31 at the moment trying to get away from the F-15s in the distance, and does manage to do so nicely. But let's have a quick look at what I'm getting down. You can see that in classic Vulcan style I have left some stuff behind, but they'll get on the move shortly. At the front we have the Spetsnaz GRU. They are advanced deployment troops, so they are trying to get some really good positions for us early on. They're going to be followed up by the Murderous, which is standard recon forward deployment. And then we have two BRM-1s. Really fantastic, exceptional optic ground base unit. And then the Igla there for some anti-air support. We are also going to be bringing up the Strela 10M as well as a T-80UD, and you saw back at the spawn I have a T-80UD and a Tunguska with the FSP at the start. ND going to be coming in with the Su-24 strike early on though, buying 4 of those bombers, and 2 have thermobaric, which were the ones on the right, and 2 had HE, which were the ones on the left. Andy made the mistake of not evacing them immediately, so the Su-24 here is going to get shot down by the SAS, unfortunately. Making sure that you queue an evac order after you drop bombs is really important in WARNO, because you don't want your aircraft to hang around long enough to be shot down by enemy aircraft, or AA in this case. Particularly like SAS, really strong, because they get 71% accuracy on their Stinger with the triple vet. So really nasty squad you got to watch out for. But the Spetsnaz GRU just kind of hanging out for the time being. They will be using their GSR trait. The GSR trait, what it does is improves the optics of units when they're not moving. So in this case, Spetsnaz GRU have a standard optics of very good. That will go up to exceptional when they have the GSR trait running. And that will allow us to spot quite a lot of stuff coming in here. The M2 Bradley is being spotted by the Spetsnaz back here, as well as the Mi2, I imagine. So quite a lot of Bradleys on their way. Flashheart is playing with the 24th. So lots of National Guard M2 Bradleys coming close, as well as a couple of M1 IPs, which are backing those up. Spetsnaz are going to have to be careful, as the MI or the RPG-18 not going to be very good at taking those out, but the laser guided bombs certainly do the trick as they nuke the M2 Bradley from orbit. And the Jaguar 2 also going to get shut down here as it goes for the cluster strike onto a poor T-72M. Fortunately, my T-80UDs are both still alive, and rocket artillery is going to be coming in from our teammates from the Grads onto the M1 IPs. So we're getting off to a very nice start here, as we're absolutely crushing this chap's initial push. But with one of my BRM-1s going down, we're going to be bringing in a replacement. I still have the one on the left, which is going to be vital for allowing my T-80UDs to get shots on target. It's really good for basically spotting things in the edge of the tree lines. And T-80UD there, taking advantage of the M1 IP that was left behind. Also going to be able to clean up the chaparral there, so that was really nice. T-80UD might also be able to snipe with the reflex. Does manage to hit right on target, so the T-80UD is really schooling on this American armor at the moment. BRM trying to get into a good position without dying. Just trying to get into the tree line there so it can get some stealth. F-111 coming in with the cluster bombs. Going to be smoking off, making it harder for him to get those clusters on target. And as soon as we see where it goes, we'll just reverse away from it as fast as we can, and I managed to dodge it completely, so that worked out quite nicely. The F-111F does get shot down by my Tunguska, so that worked out nicely for us. And unfortunately, well, we lose a teammate on the left, Endy dropping from the game, and then Flashheart on the enemy team. His push absolutely destroyed at the beginning of the game does count him out as well. So now we have to continue our push against the second infantry player that's left on the left-hand side. So I'm going to be continuing to bring in more of these T-80UDs and really just solidifying our lead on the ground. I do, of course, have to be careful not to keep them too close together, because that will leave you as a large target for cluster, as we've already seen the Jaguar cluster, which did get shot down, and the F-111 cluster that also got shot down. But there is going to be more of those available, and so if we are caught sleeping later on, that could cause us a lot of damage. The SS there taking a lot of damage. They're going to have to fall back. The Milan 2 trying to get some shots on target onto the T-80UD, but the T-80UD, its front armor is 21, and the Milan 2 here going to be struggling to get decent penetration onto the front armor of the T-80UD. The Tunguska, Strela moving up to supports. Toes on the right here are going to force me to fall back, especially with the Milan on the left. Because the last thing I need is one of these Toes or Milans to go into the side armor, because the side armor is significantly less than the front armor, only 7 side armor there. Either way, not really going to matter, as the Jaguar comes in there with the cluster strike. Phantom 2 also coming in with a cluster, but not quite hitting the mark. We're not able to shoot down either of those. Another nasty cluster coming in. The Phantom 2 for the Tunguska does get shot down in the process, and the Tunguska doesn't even die. I believe the Phantom 2 cluster planes, their payload is not very good compared to the Jaguar. So we do manage to get away with that one. The T-80UD is really, really pressing hard at the moment. The Terrier Scouts here, they don't have AT, so able to freely drive up to those. This T-80UD is trying to pick off the Rover Milan on the Milan 2. The BRM is trying to stay out the way of the Milan of the Warrior back there. Nice MI8 from Flammendyke. Gonna certainly clean up a lot of those ATGMs. Make it a lot easier for me to push forwards. Now, in order to get through here effectively, I am going to need some infantry. So you can see I did just purchase a bunch of these BMP 1Ps. And they will be slowly but surely coming to the front line to give us a hand. F-111 coming in for the cluster once again, but I'm just going to be continuing to drive forwards in order to dodge that one. And whilst it does completely reduce my cohesion on that tank, at least we managed to keep it alive and unscathed. So that was pretty good. Some good dodges so far onto these cluster munitions. The cluster munitions that drop from high up, they're actually quite easy to dodge if you see them coming in with your tanks. Whereas the Jaguars that dive and drop the bombs, much harder to dodge, because you almost have no chance or no time on the ground to do so. We've got the Urals now up to provide extra fuel, extra repairs for the Tunguska and the T-80s. You see that they do drain very, very quickly, because these T-80s are using up fuel like crazy, driving backwards and forwards all the time. This one, for example, already down to like only 900 fuel. I'm going to take the opportunity to try and move the BRM-1 further up. As you can see, it is spotting a lot of stuff, including the TOW 2 here, that I really shouldn't be approaching like that. We also, of course, have the Spetsnaz GRU that are further up on the right-hand side, which are providing good information on the Track Rapier and the Milan 2 and such here. BRM, going to try and smoke that. Unfortunately, a bit of a mistake on my part. Way too late on the smoke. Shouldn't have even been there in the first place. Going to replace it immediately. Because these BRM-1s are crucial for recon for the T-80UDs. You never really want to get your T-80UDs ambushed by enemy tanks, because like side armor is not that great, so you could take a lot of damage very quickly, and then you lose a 330-point tank in like really quick amount of time, which is really not good. So the BRM, yeah, super important for keeping your awareness around yourself as you continue the push with the tanks. And the armored rifles here, not really going to be able to stand up against a multi-rifle Vertigo with that many numbers. Strela 10M, unfortunately, going to get clipped by the TOW 2. The cohesion, not really low enough. Wasn't routed in time by the shots coming in from the T-80 there. So it wasn't able to save that. And the Strela itself doesn't have any smoke. So, no luck. But Yagsource now coming up on the left-hand side with the T-72M. Going to force back the Fox. And my BRM's trying to finish off the armoured rifles, but the BRM's main gun, not very good at killing enemy infantry. with its 0.73 HE. Now, big mistake on my part here. You can see how the side shots really are effective enough to just one-shot your tanks. My poor T80UD getting hit in the side by a Milan 2, no chance. Gets absolutely annihilated. Really bad micro on my part allowing that to happen. Tunguska, at least, managing to finish off the F4E. Tunguska in this game was absolutely spectacular, and I was getting away with keeping on the radar here. Usually, Seed is going to really shut down the use of the cannons here with 30 mils, but in this case, yeah, getting that on target before even the missile was fired allowed us to get the damage to finish it off. So BMP 1P is pushing up on the left now with the Mochitsen. Going to be finding and killing the Javelin thanks to my recon. I'm going to have to wait for more tanks to arrive though. One real scary thing about playing a tank division like this is if you do lose your T-80s like one by one, it can quite often lead to you being overwhelmed by enemy armor. And then every time you sort of bring in a new T-80, you kind of like feed them piecemeal by accident. And it just gets worse and worse and worse until the enemy just like overwhelms you. So you have to be super, super careful. Like in this situation where I only have one T-80 UD on its own, I shouldn't be forcing that engagement. Because there's a Challenger 2 and two M1A1s that can do a decent amount of damage to my T-80 UD in the front armor. I'm going to be taking a cheeky HGM shot with a reflex at least. And the T-72M on the left is acting as a deterrent. But the Challenger Mark II trying to get close enough to penetrate the front armor. Currently can't engage, but the T-72M going to be finding that side shot. And that's why the M1A1s were forced to fall back, because if they'd continued to push forwards to try and utilize the cohesion loss on the T-80 and the damage to the T-80 in order to get a kill, a T-72M is always preventing them from doing so. So it was good teamwork by Yagt here to push up on the left-hand side. BMP 1Ps now coming into position are going to be unloading those Modostrauki. Although I don't necessarily want to like unload them in the open, so I'm going to keep them in their transports almost as long as I can. In this case, just going to be unloading one of the Modostrauki, and then I'm going to smoke off the BMP 1P because I was a bit worried about the HGMs coming in from the right-hand side. Phantom 2 cluster, not going to be able to kill the BMP on the left-hand side. And you see again the payload of the Rockeyes there, the Mark 20 Rockeye 2s, not going to really be enough to get the job done. But I did end up losing my BRM-1, so that was unfortunate. But BMP 1P managing to get in on the right-hand side is going to enable us to get an infantry squad into that compound. Just currently waiting for my Buratino to arrive. That has just pulled up on the backside here. We're going to be able to utilize this to kind of break down enemy defenses. This sort of forested area is not ideal for my tank engagements, so the Buratino is the perfect tool to clean those out. My Tunguska also managed to take out the Gazelle though, which is great because it's going to remove some of their sort of heli-based recon, which is always relatively superior to ground-based recon just because you have the elevation. F111 though, coming in on the left-hand side there with more cluster, completely wasted and shot down, so decent kill for our team. You'll notice that I have brought up the Mi-8 now. This is going to be able to ferry supply from the Bob back here. Now the way that the supply works in WARNO, if you didn't know, is that smaller transports, like smaller supply transports, can take supply from larger supply transports. So in this case, a Ural only has 1,000 supply maximum. So it can fill itself from the Mi-8 MT because it has 1,500 supply. And then it can ferry that over to the front line for us without having to move my Mi-8T like closer, basically. Anyway, going to be putting some Buratino rockets on target. Looking to try and take out the Fox here, as well as the M150. We managed to kill off the Fox. The M150 takes a little bit of damage. But I didn't want to waste the entire strike trying to kill that unit. So we're just going to be shifting up in order to maybe hit something else. My Motorvedka and the Modostrauki in the meantime have managed to get up to the compound on the left, so they're in a pretty nice position. T-80UDs trying to pop these Warrior Milans from a distance. But here comes the BMP-1. And that's going to be able to get its Fargo on target. And the T-80UD here trying to hit the M1A1. Dropping the cohesion on those is always handy, even if you're not going to actually hit them. I'm forced to smoke off here as the Warrior Milans do get the Milans on target before I do. Strela 1 on the right trying to kill that Toad Cobra. But here we go with the Buratino. Like where the Emmet was trying to resupply the Abrams, I thought it'd be a good idea to try and kill that off and damage the tanks in the process, and I do manage to do just that. All of the M1A1 Abrams reduced to the lowest cohesion level, taken damage, lost their supply. Never supply in line of sight of the enemy. That's another good tip. So, currently got my Ural fixing up my T-80UDs in cover. This Mi-8's kind of behind cover back here, so that can't be seen, hopefully. Unless, like, a helicopter spots it for some reason from the side. But relatively safe to just have it there for the time being. And the Buratino is going to move all the way back, just so that it's not pulling supply from these Urals for the time being until I've fully resupplied the T-80UDs, because that's going to be pretty important. Now, moving up my BMP on the left here to support Yagsos' and my own infantry. We've got the Tunguska moving up as well because we saw the collection of helicopters, so we need to have something in position to counter those. And you'll notice also now that I've taken the radar 30 mils offline, so that's certainly going to help reduce any damage from seed. But Milan 2's found here, going to come under a lot of fire very, very quickly indeed, and since the left flank is now sort of secure, I'm going to be able to push aggressively with the T-80UDs. Now, the way that I love to use the 119th is I'll obviously use the T-80UDs for their heavy lifting to take out any enemy armored targets. And then, meanwhile, you can have your infantry, which includes Spetsnaz and other great close-range infantry, to clean out these sort of forested areas that are on your flanks. And it works out really, really nicely. Now, again, big mistake here. The Hemmet being used on the front line to resupply the M1A1 Abrams, and it makes it the perfect strike for our grads. My T-80UD cleans up one of them with its HGM. Another Abrams, I think, got caught out completely there. Huge strike, absolutely demolishing enemy armor. So the Fireteam Dragon on the right-hand side, not going to be able to do too much to the front armor of the T-80. Like every hit will do like 1 damage. And the T-80UDs, they do get 11 health due to the explosive reactive armor trait. The only problem with the explosive reactive armor trait is you have to be wary of like tandem warheads, as they do significant damage still. The Buratino going to be completely filled up once again by the Urals on the back line. This Ural is actually driving all the way back to the FOB to get some more supply, because I've moved the Mi-8 further up just as sort of a base for them to move back to. Now this is actually kind of a risky position for the Mi-8, because it can probably be seen from the right-hand side. But since we haven't had much artillery coming in onto our position so far, it's mostly been airstrikes, I felt relatively confident that I could put it in that position. Now, overall on the map, you can see on the right-hand side, the enemy team doing a good job of pushing us out of Elena completely. So even with our good push coming through on the left-hand side, we haven't fully secured this yet. So whilst we are 918 points ahead from the beginning of the game, currently no points being gained on either side. You can see that I'm continuing a good spread here of the T-80UDs. And any time one is getting low, I'm going to be falling it back. If it dies, it's getting replaced. And if I have the extra points, then we're just going to be bringing in extra. BRM-1 is going to be accompanying those and making sure that anything that can fire at the BRM-1 is also being countered itself. But with the Rover CP going down, that is going to be the last of the leaders in this sector, and we will be able to fully control this for ourselves. So Spetsnaz now going to be trying to move up on the left-hand side as much as possible. TATUDs are trying to get the reflex on target. You also notice that I have decided to bring up the Su-24 with the laser-guided bombs. But a nice side shot into the Challenger Mark II. Going to be finishing that off. This TATUD was completely okay in terms of cohesion when it took that shot, so very, very accurate. Do you have to be careful of the Apache though, of course. These Melantho in the front arm not going to be too much of a problem. Now, didn't really have a good target for the laser-guided bomb after bringing it in, so that's going to have to go round again. And I'm going to go for the kill onto the M1A1 Abrams here. Beautiful kill. Unfortunately, the Su-24 going down. Not ideal. But good damage regardless onto those Abrams. And it is going to make it, once again, easier for us to push forward the TATUDs. Now, at this point, there isn't much for us to gain in pushing over this ridge. There is a little ridge here, because there's no point up here that we can capture except from maybe center, but that's going to be very, very difficult to fully control. So eventually we're going to have to wheel around to the right and push across to Boris and then into Dmitry. But we can't do that before the stuff that's on the ridge is dead and the ridge is secured, because otherwise we'll just be flanked if we pull to the right. So we are in this like kind of weird predicament where we're forced to deal with all of these Abrams before we can actually make any sort of maneuvers. But great engine destroy there from the CATUD is going to leave that M1A1 a sitting duck. We're still going to have to be incredibly cautious of all of the ATGM helicopters that are hanging about. But thankfully the Iglas on the left are going to be helping us. The Tunguska is in position as well. We've also got a Strela 10M. So that's going to go down very, very quickly to our Tunguskas. Stinger team going to take care of that. Buratino here, I believe, got spotted, so artillery starts coming in onto the tree line here. The TATUDs continuing to push backwards and forwards. I noticed the artillery getting closer and closer, so we are going to be moving that Buratino well out of the way. But all the while, you'll notice on the back line the importance of supply. Got 4 Urals. We got the Mi-8T MT here, and this is probably the one, or one of the ones that went back to the FOB here to get some more supply. But absolutely crucial that you do make good use of supply, particularly if you do invest into a FOB as well. This TATUD pushing quite aggressively at the moment. I was hoping to maybe try and finish off the Stinger, but we'll take the fire team there first. That is absolutely fine. Nice rocket strike coming in from the Eugen. Absolutely big beast of a rocket unit fired by Flamin here. 220mm rockets smashing the strong point on top of this hill. The TATUD here getting pretty low, so gonna have to back that up. All of my Urals kind of running out of supply due to the Buratino soaking that up. Now we're getting cluster artillery coming in from across the map. Thankfully, not really hitting anywhere near. So I'm going to just remain pretty chill. Lots of Gazelles hanging about. These are the rocket variants. So I think they only have like 12 rockets or something. They've got these little sneb pods. And whilst they can be good for getting value against enemy infantry, like the Tunguska here is going to absolutely clean house with its 30mm on. Strela 10M also there to help out. All of those Gazelles dropping like flies. Ori Milando managing to stand up against the T-80. As the T-80 has got really low cohesion. I'll just show you how, like, the penalty here. 75% accuracy reduce on that T-80 due to its cohesion. So cohesion, really, really important. Cannot understate that. Cannot overstate that, I should say. Anyway, more Mi-8 MTs on the way. All of these obviously getting really low, so bringing up the extra supply, really, really important. I've also got to make sure that my T-80UDs continue to move, because you can see the enemy artillery that is constantly now coming in. Making sure these are fixed up, and also that they have smoke, is another thing that's really, really important. Never ever neglect the need for smoke on your tanks. So if you've got tanks that have used their smoke, make sure you resupply them as soon as you can. But we're going to get a real nasty Buratino strike here. Absolutely perfect onto those two Javelin teams. The M2 Bradley in there. Reinforcing Fox gets caught a little bit as well. Big, big kills for the Buratino. I just let it, in this case, fire all of its rockets because it was just the perfect target. Smashing, once again, that strong point. Tunguska on the left also managed to take down the Lynx AH-1. So huge kills. But the Strela 10M are going to have to do a runner. I'm hoping that I can cover it with the T-80UDs. Like, frontally, the T-80UDs should be absolutely fine against the M1A1 Abrams, but it really depends how aggressive he gets, because if he spreads them out nicely and starts pushing forwards without really stopping, then he could find side shots eventually onto the T-80UDs and get enough penetration to really do a lot of damage. Now, unfortunately, the Strela 10M could not be saved, but the T-80UDs are in a good position to fight back, as we are able to engage at max range with the reflex missiles. The F-111 did come in on the left there, ended up getting taken out. Hit the supply helicopter, but the supply helicopter actually managed to survive it somehow. But since they're low on cohesion now, like this one, these two on the front here, very low on cohesion and also damaged. Going to be making a little bit of a push with the T-80Us that I have, and you'll notice again the spread, really, really important here on the front line, making sure that I have the Tunguskas in position to defend them against enemy helicopters, particularly like the Apache and the Lynx AH-7 Hellam here, and then also have the Recon that's able to see enemy targets. So we've got the Spetsnaz GRU nice and close, and we've got the BRM further back so that we can see over the ridge from a distance. So Tunguska hits the Apache there. Big bombing strike comes in from the F-111, but not really able to do any damage. The Apache, of course, forced back. Tunguska really needs to get the job done against the Lynx AH-7 Hellam. I'm forced to smoke here as I push over the ridge with the T-80, because the amount of fire that started coming my way was kind of ridiculous. Like, there are so many units over here that are standing in our way, and I can't really brute force that just yet. So I'm thinking, if I can get my T-80 BBK to give these T-80UDs some extra veterancy, they might be a bit more efficient at cleaning up a lot of these units. That's kind of what I was going for here. Making sure that I can utilize the one that's got good cohesion to deal decent damage to the Abrams, and as I continue the engagement, well, the Grad Strike actually going to hit perfectly here. So huge teamwork coming in as it forces the Abrams to fall back, giving me the range advantage once again with the T-80UDs. And the worst part for them is that's a range advantage on the ridge. So we're going to be able to get a good foothold here as we continue to push up, although a lot of the enemies on this left-hand side had already surrendered. So a lot of this infantry here, for example, is like AI, which is why it's running around like a headless chicken. But these tanks, of course, still controlled by a player. A good kill, again, onto an enemy aircraft. The Tunguskas were really, really paying themselves off in this game. A little bit unfortunate that this T-80UD here got bailed out. Kind of a bad position for it to be bailed out, so I'm forced to bring up the Ural to try and fix it up. F-111 with HG coming in. Does unfortunately kill off my unit on the right-hand side. But the T-80UD manages to fall back at least. Now, since it's not too damaged, fixing up the bailout would have been pretty quick, but with extra shots coming in there, it was always going to be a bit far-fetched to try and fix that up. I'll try my best, as the tracks are also broken now. And as it's no longer under fire, the artillery forcing back the rest of the HGMs and such, also the Tunguska coming up to force back the Apaches, we are able to get it fixed up slightly. So now that we've kind of cleared out the ridge, this is where pushing over to the right-hand side is now more viable, because those tanks are a lot less able to ambush us, especially if we have like an infantry contingent in this forest on the left-hand side here. So moving up the rest of the Urals here as well, just to use up the rest of their supply. And that will help us like fix up these T-80s nice and quick. So I decided in the end, because this was like really low, that I would just try and fix up the healthy tanks first, because it's kind of likely that that would die, particularly if any sort of artillery started dropping on it, but then nothing did, so it's a good opportunity for me to then push forwards with the Urals and repair this as quickly as I can. Instead, the artillery coming on to the Tunguska here as it tries to escape. Fortunately, not able to. Tunguska turret going flying. With the tracks repaired and the bailout fixed, time to move back as quickly as possible. Get out of that position before rocket artillery or whatever else comes in. Jaguar tried to go for the cluster, but must have lost line of sight at the last second. Did not drop its bombs, ends up getting shot down, so it's supremely lucky for me that that did not hit the mark. But on the backside here, 2 more tanks. So we're getting to that real massive critical mass. I mean, we kind of already had when we pushed up onto the ridge. But we now have 5 T-80UDs on the map. A T-80, the T-80 VVK, double Tunguska, although of course one of them died, and then I've got the recon in positions too as well. Like the BRM sitting here is really, really good. Phantom once again coming in with the inadequate payload to kill off the T-80, so the T-80 is going to be able to reverse out of that with quite a bit of damage, to be honest. Like if you time those Phantoms with other tanks attacking you, then yeah, it's going to work pretty great. But if you don't, then it's not gonna do too well. Anyway, as you can see, it's at this moment I'm realizing we need to push to the right. The position that we have up here is stopping all of these units from really doing anything. So now we're going to be able to move across, especially with the T-80 BVK, to contest the center of the map. And we also have Warm Cone Head here pushing forwards with the BMD-3s at the same time. So that's helping make some good ground. Check out this battlefield though. When you zoom in this game, it just looks incredible. Like this front line is insanely long. It goes from all the way up here where Fox has his Resvedka all the way down to this bottom side where there's a big old infantry engagement going on. Little Bird actually getting some rockets on target there as well as it comes under fire from some machine guns. But yeah, the smoke piles and the flames and everything across the front line here, absolutely awesome. And this is the beauty of a 10v10. It just doesn't get much better than this in gaming. Yeah, T-80 BVK ready and waiting to push in. I was just waiting for my tank line to get ahead of me so I could actually adequately defend that. I've got my Buratino moving up here to get a nice shot on target where all of these units are trying to resupply. We've got a good sort of supply base here with the Mi-8 MTs, so they're going to be able to fix up the remaining T-80UD. But here we go with the T-80s now in position. We're going to be making the play all the way across. Tunguska is going to be a little bit late to the party. Like the triple toe Cobra could be kind of scary, to be honest, but I was kind of confident that we just had such a massive tanks that it didn't really matter what was in my way. And here goes the Buratino for another strike on the left-hand side. This thermobaric rocket's going to be absolutely ripping anything that gets caught in that radius. Now tank's going to be coming up on us from the ridge. And it's actually quite a lot of M1A1 Abrams. But yeah, as I mentioned earlier, critical mass. T-80UDs really going to be able to smash M1A1 Abrams. F-16 clusters coming in again with kind of inadequate payloads to one-shot T-80s. So whilst he does manage to damage my leader and this T-80UD, there's still 4 that are perfectly fine to engage these tanks up on the ridge. You can see over time the damage on these Abrams really just going to force them to back off, as 2 of them have already died. Of course, the Schmel coming in to annoy our ears as we continue to make the push. Poor little Stinger there gets taken out. This T-80UD actually rushing up the ridge as quickly as I can to try and take advantage of the low health Abrams with low cohesion, because with that low cohesion in play, they're not going to be able to hit my T-80UD very well, but I of course can't just sit there and take rockets from the H1F, so you can see that I am backing up from that. This T-80BVK trying to be killed off by the enemy, as it is the only thing contesting the center at the moment. But as we manage to kill off the enemy leader in the center, well, that's going to be entirely ours, and that's going to create, I believe, a +5, as this is a 2-point sector, leaving us with 2 minutes and 40 seconds left on the clock until victory. So with the fuel getting low on this T-80, a lot of these running out of ammo on the HGMs and such, it's a good time to sort of fall back. The Tunguska is actually completely out of ammunition. And this is kind of where I'm breaking my own rule, bringing up the Mi-8T to resupply these in the open, but it should be very quick. Like, this 1,500 supply will get sucked up so fast by these tanks here. So just going to be dropping it down. There's also really not too much that's going to be spotting us, because there's not much on the edge of the ridge that would otherwise have been spotted. We're actually quite far back, but you can see how just quickly that just gets drained. 1,500 supply gone very quickly indeed. The T-80BVK getting fixed up. This T-80UD, if it moved back in there, that would just be gone. Ural moving up with 3 supply. Probably not the best idea, but my MIMTs here from the left are now going back to resupply. You can also notice that my Urals here, it should be like fast moving on the road, but a little bit of a weird pathing there, making them take their time to get to the front line again. So I've managed to more or less repair as much as I need to, so we're just going to make a push once again with those T-80s. I just need to be a little bit careful with the one that's low health, and this Mi-8 can head back to the FOB to go get some more supply. Now also Turtle Man here joining us with BND3s. Going to be pushing across to the right hand side, and we're just going to continue to sweep through here with the objective of also taking this objective potentially. But of course, with only 40 seconds left on the clock, kind of it's working against us and our kill lists at the moment. You can just admire the destruction on the front line as the T-80s roll into position. 4 squads that get found with this wall of armor coming towards them. Nice F-16 there, cluster getting taken out. And there you have it, guys. Absolutely brutal wall of steel smashing through the enemy at the end of the game. Really fun one. In the end, 7,965 kills to 2,205 losses with 3.61 KD. Pretty damn nice. And the 119th, an exceptional division for 10v10. It's not one I play that often, but in this case, somebody in the stream chat recommended that I play it, or at least, you know, I asked for suggestions. They go, "Oh, play this division," and in this case, I actually got a decent one. So, yeah, for 10v10, 119th, really good. Tunguska getting loads of kills, making sure that you turn off that 30mm if you want to avoid seed. T-80UD, really strong tank. The turret Buratino, absolutely loads of kills on that thing. Really did pay itself off nicely. And yeah, just perfect use of all of the tools that we had at our disposal. We did get a nice bombing strike on the right hand side. Unfortunately, I missed showing that, but we saw ND's nice bombing strike at the beginning, so there you go. Alrighty, well, that is it from me. Hopefully, you guys have enjoyed this video. Do make sure to subscribe, guys. We're getting very, very close to 100k. It'd be awesome if we could get there. But thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Goodbye.